What's up, everybody? Welcome to the High Level Husband Podcast. Today we are talking about how hidden truths will hold back your life and your marriage. This is a situation that I've known this forever, but there had two situations pop up in our life this week, babe, where I got to speak into two different people's lives, and because of it, I was like, man, this is so powerful. We got to do a podcast on this. And so, guys, there was multiple things. I'm going to share those situations with you. Obviously, I'm not going to share people's names, and so they're not put on blast here. But when we have secrets inside of us that our spouse does not know about, and we just think to ourselves, well, that was a while ago. It's been past. God's forgiven me. I really don't think about it anymore. Mm-hmm. You have to bring it to the surface, because I guarantee you do think about it, even though you may not think about it daily. It pops up, and it's robbing you of some joy. It's also robbing you of possibility in your life, because God blesses people who are willing to bring things from darkness into light. And if you have something that you're not willing to expose and share with somebody else, he can expose and share his greatness with you in certain aspects.
Right.
You'll kind of just stay with where you're at. But when you're willing to be bold, as he talks about Caleb in Numbers, where he says Caleb has a different kind of spirit. Like Caleb and Joshua were just guys that were just like the Old Testament gangsters. Like, they just did not play around. They were like, yep, we can defeat these people. Yep, here, I'm setting the standard here, and here. And it's just like, man, like, those are the guys we all need to be about. So, babe, let's dive into it. I'm going to start with I guess one I kind of did the reel on, and it was about how somebody in our program's going to tell their wife that they cheated on them.
Right.
I just want to, just before I even jump into that whole situation, I just want to know, from your perspective, let's say, obviously I cheated on you 20 something years ago. But let's say it was 3 years ago. I've worked past it in myself, and I've already been growing to be a better man. God's forgiven me, right? I've asked for repentance from him. But yet I've never told you about it. But yet I've become, over the last few years, a better man. Would you want to know?
Yes. As hard as it would be, and as much as it would crush me, knowing and finding that out, even though it was if it happened hypothetically 3 years ago, I would be crushed, but I would want to know still, and I think it would definitely be like a mourning period still, even though I know the person that you are, but in that amount of time, you had still been a changed person. So I, would take time to regain that trust for sure, even though it had been years ago.
Yeah. So, obviously, guys, it's not just going to be like this beautiful thing straight out the gate where this person's going to tell them. It's going to be tears. It's going to be pain. It's going to be, like Dianne said, a mourning period. Mm-hmm. It's going to be some repercussions.
Right. But I would honor you more for telling me rather than finding out another way, because I would be 10 times as crushed had I just found out some other way than had you told me.
Well, that's the biggest key, so I guess, right. So I think that one thing this guy, well, here's, I guess, what I'll say about that is, I don't know if he thinks about it on a daily basis. I'm sure he probably does, because I know how sin works. But two, I don't know if he thinks about, like, my wife is ever going to find out, and that haunts him.
It would mortify me. Like, I would be thinking about it all the time, and I would be so worried. For 3 years, I would be so worried that you would find out. Yeah.
And even if you're not thinking about it all the time, you would think, like, when a name pops up that's associated with something, you're going to think, uh-oh, mm-hmm. Are they going to find out? Mm-hmm. And then you would be tripping out, and it would rob your joy from that day. Yeah. And it would rob, all these other things you're trying to do in your life. And so I'm going to kind of pivot then off of this story, but I'm going to come back to this one. Is that we were leading that men's event this weekend that we do, and just such a powerful weekend. But there was somebody there, and actually we normally don't bring in people this young, but he was 20, and he was talking about how he struggles with porn. And he said, I've been dating this girl for 3 years. I struggle with porn. And she looks at it as infidelity and adultery.
Mhm.
And he's like, so I don't tell her that I do it, but I
Mm.
still do it. He says, I still come home every now and then, and I'm from a long day of work, and I can be angry or short with her or quiet and all these other things. And so I'm just like, I still have those emotions in me of frustration, which are definitely a direct reflection of it. You're not happy with yourself. It's not just that you had a long day. And two, you have something brewing inside of you. And so he said, I've never told her, and this is what I'm struggling with, and these things like that, because I don't want to lose her. And I said, well, man, here's how this works is A, you got to tell her,
Mhm.
because this is already ruining your life. That's one of the reasons why you struggle with anger at such a young age.
Mhm.
And two, you're 20, bro. You got to cut the head off the snake right now, on that. And three, of what you just said is, I said, dude, this will build trust in the moment.
Mhm.
It'll feel like a breaking of trust, but she will start to trust you in a different way. And if this is the one, you've been together for 3 years and you're 20, chances are you're probably going to get married, and you're hoping so,
Right.
that this will lead to a marriage. But by you telling her this, something that's super uncomfortable, it's not like, oh, by the way, I spent $100 at the casino the other night. No, this is like, I'm doing something that you told me to not do,
Mhm.
that you take as serious offense.
Mhm.
I'm doing this, and I want to let you know that I'm doing it. So you're bringing it to light to dark. She will trust you as you move in the future, that if you
Mhm.
do something wrong, that you'll bring it to her attention. So then she'll move forward thinking, okay, I know he's not doing anything because he's the type of man that's courageous, vulnerable, real, raw, and he's actual masculine enough to be able to bring this to my attention.
A man of his word.
So moving forward, he'll be able to do those same things
Mhm.
because he's doing such a big one here. So the littler ones will be even easier. So then she'll trust him with everything.
Mhm.
That will take time to regain some trust because of this. But I'm like, is this going to set the future for your marriage?
Right.
If not, that you're going to be you're going to start your marriage already with one foot chopped off in the
Right.
marriage.
And it opens it up for her to be able to share things with him if anything arises now or in the future, also.
Yeah, because she's going to think, you know what? He did that.
Mhm.
He set the standard in that.
Mhm.
I'm going to do that. Then you guys have a completely open marriage
Yeah.
of like honesty, and it does that.
Mhm.
And so it just builds so much trust for the future.
And it opens it up for each of you to help support each other.
And it shows you what type of person that you are, character. It
Mhm.
shows your character moving forward. What most people don't, and babe, and I've blown so many people's minds with this past 2 weeks with this, what I'm about to tell you right here. Did it again today. And I wasn't even going to coach this guy on this today, but he mentioned it. He said, man, people just want to be fulfilled.
Mhm.
And I said, well, you don't say. I said, brother, God told me this about 2 weeks ago. For whatever reason, I know why. I was reading the Bible at the end of the day, and God just showed me something. And I was thinking about the word fulfilled. And the word fulfilled, if I was to ask any of you, and if I've spoken on this here, forgive me, guys, but if the word fulfilled, um, people think that means I'm, having more sex with my wife. I have more peace, more joy. I have more money. I have all these other things, great friends. That's what they think that fulfillment means. And I get it. That's what I kind of thought it was. Well, I was like, well, let me look up the definition of fulfillment and really kind of like, so I can spin this off something. And when it showed me the definition, I actually have it right here. It's crazy what the actual definition of fulfilled is.
I know you've told me, but I can't remember the actual definition.
And I've spoken this to so many people, because this guy today who was asking me about it is a business owner. And he was like, man, how do we change the culture of my business? How do I pour into so many people? He's like, I'm only one man. I said, okay, here's how we do that. We start with you, and we're already there with him. And I said, so you're already there. I said, so now we just need to have you coach your managers in your business. And then your managers will trickle down to their team leaders, and those team leaders will lead their employees below them. And because he was talking about how everybody needs to be fulfilled. And so I said, ironically enough, this plays into that. I said, here's the definition of fulfillment, bro. Satisfied or happy because of fully developing one's abilities or character.
Mm.
Doesn't say about having more sex or having more money or any of that. Getting more respect, anything. None. Zip, zilch. Fully developing one's abilities, so your talents that God has given you uniquely to you. You have different ones than me. I have different ones than everybody listening to this. Everybody listening to this has different ones than me and you and other people. So developing those abilities fully, developing those abilities. And secondly, developing our character fully. Well, when you do that, it'll bring peace, joy, all that other stuff. When you fully develop your abilities and your character, you'll just attract money left and right, but you won't even need it because you're so fulfilled because your abilities and your character is so high. It's just wild how that works. And you'll attract the sex from your wife 100%, babe. When I really saw my talents, because what was one of the lines I always used? Do you know what it is?
I can't think offhand.
I have no talents.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What am I going to
You
do
said
for
that.
work?
You
I
said
have
that
no
so many
talents.
times.
I have no talents, babe.
Yeah.
What am I going to do for work?
Yeah.
And God said, oh,
Would you like me to show you?
when we got courageous, when I developed those abilities and my character, because without the character, those abilities wouldn't come. Oh, here's a platform where you've had 750 million views. Oh, here's 535,000 followers following you. Oh, you've coached hundreds of people around the world to successful marriages and self-worth and fulfillment by developing their abilities and character. And so I didn't think I had it. So anyways, to go back to when you reveal these things, you're showing your character to your spouse, but you're also showing your character to yourself and to God, because God says who can be trusted with little can be trusted with many. So now you're going to find fulfillment because of doing the character things. And it's not easy. It's not easy. Our program is called High Level Husband. It doesn't say mediocre man or middle ground man, because there's a great book by John Maxwell called High Road Leadership. And he talks about the different ways of doing things. And the middle road leadership is, I'll do this for you if you do this for me. That's what it is. It's like everything has to be fair. High level leadership is, I'm going to do this without you giving me anything in return. Jesus washed feet and wasn't expecting them to like just praise him.
Absolutely not.
He just washed their feet.
Nothing in return.
Right. So my point of saying that is, we do these things with high level character. And when it gets that people will trust you with whatever.
Right.
And then you'll set the foundation. So if you do fall in any ways, and I'm not saying it's always going to be infidelity or anything like that, but then you can bring it and your wife's like, yeah, but I've seen these years of you bring it. It's like, all good, we'll work through this. But then if they find out, like you say, they're going to be like, what else is hidden? Because I just uncovered this, but I don't know anything else. Are you doing anything else that I don't know about?
Right. Well, yeah, it's like if you're saying if it was like porn or something like that, and they found out about it and you didn't come to them first, they're obviously probably, I mean, I would probably think, well, has he done something else? Has he cheated on me in the past? Like, what else is there to hiding? You know, you would definitely think that.
Right. If he's willing, it shows the balls on somebody when they're willing to do it. So let's get back to the guy who cheated. He said, you know, one of the biggest things for him was being in our program. And one of the lessons that I teach him is, you got to forgive people in your life that have done you wrong. You got to like personally forgive them. And 2, if you have anything that you need to ask for forgiveness with, you got to go do it. Because if you don't, you're saying, I'm going to suck it up and just have a terrible, mediocre life. And God will never bless you on top of that without you going and doing it. It talks about in the Bible, and I'll paraphrase this. He says, you know, it's like, if you can't lay your offering at the altar, if you have a quarrel with somebody else, you must go fix that quarrel first and then come back to the altar. This is what that is. And so he's going to do that. He said, man, this is so tough. He says, I've been back reading the Bible and it's really convicted me. And between that, being convicted by the Bible, and it's just rocking his world, and he wants that fruit. And then between the program, he's just like, man, he says, I knew joining High Level Husband was going to be a challenge. And he said, so I guess this is what it's about, you know? And he's like throwing funny emojis. This is a dude who's about to get the smoke, you know?
Yeah.
And there's ways. I said, before you do it, make sure you do yourself a fast. Do a nice little fast. Make sure you're still solid in the word. Like, make sure you're doing all of the stuff so you're prepared for this. Like, give yourself every tool to work with to be able to make this go the best possible. But he's just like, man, I'm tired of having, and his marriage isn't terrible, But he's just like, I'm tired of being the man that I am. I can't be the father that I am if I have things in the dark. I can't be a husband that I am if I have things in the dark. And I can't be the business owner that I am if I have things in the dark. Because when you take things to the grave, you also take your joy, your potential, and your marriage to the grave. And you also take your wife's joy, potential, and marriage to the grave as well, because it will never be that. And lastly, on that same topic, if your spouse does not know everything about you, they are not choosing to be married to you. They're choosing to be married to a fake version of you.
Right. They don't know the actual real version of you because you're hiding something.
A big thing,
Yes.
a giant thing you're hiding.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't choose to be with you for you.
Mm-hmm.
They chose to be with you for the fake you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But when you reveal everything and they still choose to be with you, you know you have a keeper.
Right.
And they know that they love you even more. There was somebody in our life, babe, you were there during this process, and I was in a coaching program, and this person, same scenario, but had cheated on his wife 10 years prior,
Mm-hmm.
and decided he was feeling so convicted because he was about to start up a men's group of his own, Bible study style in his city. And he said, I can't do that until I reveal the deep, dark secret that I have. I just can't do it because I'll feel like a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't lead men if I can't even lead myself and bring up stuff like this. And because, guys, if you're leading a Bible study and it's not challenging you, if it's not convicting you, and you're not having to do hard stuff, your Bible study is lukewarm.
Yeah, you're not doing something right.
Being a follower is tough. It's a cross to carry, and it's bold and it's courageous.
Mm-hmm.
And so he decided to tell his wife, rocked her. It was about a good year of a lot of tears. They still stayed married.
Mm-hmm.
It got better over that year. It wasn't the same way as day one, but she was crushed.
Yeah.
And that was 10 years.
Yeah. So it had been some time, but I mean, it's still a broken of trust in marriage, and that takes a lot of time to get over, knowing that somebody forsaked you. And it's not that it can't change and it can't get better, and you can't overcome those things. It's just going to take time. But had she found out from somebody else
That would
or
have been like
another
divorce.
way, yeah, it would have been either 20 times worse, or it could have ended in the marriage not staying together.
So here's one thing on that, guys. You know, as you guys know, I grew weed for a living on the black market for 8 years. And one thing that makes me feel decent about the way I got out was that God called me out. He also told me not to do it, and I did it anyways. But I got out of the business before the business died.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Northern California, the business used to be thriving, and then it got mediocre, and then now it's just flat dead.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's pretty much legal everywhere else, right? And so I chose to leave
Mm-hmm.
before it died.
Mm-hmm.
Had I still to this day, had I not left until it died, I wouldn't feel like a man.
No, and I feel like, you gave God something more to work with and more trust, because you trusted in him in that moment to leave that, knowing that he was going to provide, instead of just waiting till it ended. And it's like, oh, well, now what,
Yeah, it's like, you're supposed to quit your job and go to another job, and you're like, well, and then if one day the company just goes under, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to switch my, you're not courageous. The company went under.
You didn't have any other choices.
That was your only choice.
Yeah.
I didn't quit the Wii game. The Wii game ended. No, but because I quit the Wii game before the Wii game ended, it gives me confidence.
Mm-hmm.
But all glory to God for like darn near killing me to finally make that happen. And it's the same thing in this. If you want to grow your character and self-worth, you have to do uncomfortable things.
And that's key too, because I was going to mention that earlier, self-worth, because I can't imagine if I was carrying around the guilt of, like, say I had cheated on you 3 years ago, just hypothetically, the guilt that I would be carrying, I would feel like a piece of crap. My self-worth would be so low, because I would always be looking at that, knowing I did something wrong, knowing I wasn't a good enough person, knowing, I would just be carrying that, and it would be terrible. My self-worth would be just drained.
You'd be slightly, and I guarantee you'd be moody.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse my French here, but bitching a lot.
Yeah.
You possibly would not want to be intimate in bed because that would remind you of the other situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It wouldn't be, and so there would just be so many things that you'd be taking it out, because when your self-worth is low, you take that out on other people because you're so sad in yourself.
Mhm.
It sucks. It's
Yeah.
why our program's based around when Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, keyword, as you love yourself. And so how do you love yourself? By bringing things from the dark to light and removing them from your life. And then you heal from those things. And so just as the person I'm talking about who 10 years ago cheated on their wife and brought it to the good, I've used that in so many coaching scenarios. So God's using that to heal marriages, not only their own, but now so many other people's, and he doesn't even know that. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So it's like things that we see that get brought to the surface,
Mhm.
we don't see always the fruit, and that's okay. We just have to trust God and let God say, okay, I'm going to use this. You may not get the credit,
Mhm.
but I'm going to use it.
Mhm.
And it's just so important, and that will grow your character.
Mhm.
And so, guys, you have to do it. And it's not always cheating and it's not always porn. Now, but if you have those things in your life, bring them up and allow your wife to work through those with you. So if you struggle with porn, you're like, well, it's not that big of a thing. It's like, I don't know, like a couple times a month, still bring it up, because then you're going to let her know, you know what, I'm struggling with this. And I don't want my kids doing this. And babe, I just want to let you know I've been doing this and I want you to hold me accountable.
Mhm.
Like,
That brings them into it, so you're working through it together.
same thing. Like if you told me every now and then I pull out the vibrator and I take care of myself a few times a month, I would want to know rather than not know,
Mhm. Right.
because I would be able to be like, okay, well then I know the real Dianne instead of this fake Dianne.
Mhm.
Because how many husbands think that their wives don't have a sex drive,
Oh my
but yet
gosh.
don't know that they're taking care of themselves? Friend of ours.
Yeah.
I mean, dive into that
I
situation.
think it's happened multiple times, I mean, multiple people. I think it happens all the time
Well, it
with
happens all the time.
people.
Yeah. But I'm
Right,
just saying the
on
first time
both
I heard
sides,
about it.
but yeah, and I think it's who you're thinking of with the
Yeah.
situation, but yeah, I mean, you think that your spouse doesn't have a sex drive at all, and this was a female that was, taking care of herself, not wanting to have sex with her husband. And, I think part of it's self-image, that the confidence that you don't have in yourself, but you still have that drive there, but you don't want your spouse to like see you naked or something because you're not confident in yourself. So look how many problems just like confidence can cause. But doing that for yourself, taking care of yourself then, because you don't want your spouse to see you, so that causes so many other big problems right there. But then, obviously not building that connection with your spouse because of it.
Yeah. So just that scenario with that couple, she gained weight,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and which was not an issue for him because he even told you about
Right.
that. It was like,
Right.
I am attracted to her still.
Right.
Now, with that being said, don't gain weight. And I'm not saying that just for the looks a part of it. It's still an aspect because
Mm-hmm.
because of the self-confident
Right.
things, the
For sure.
confidence thing on that.
Absolutely.
And two, it's just bad for your body in general.
Right.
But two, she gained weight
Mm-hmm.
after the kids,
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel confident about herself,
Right.
still was horny.
Right.
So he caught her taking care of herself in the shower.
Right.
He's now frustrated, like, you haven't had sex with me in years. What is going on? I thought you just didn't have a sex drive. Now I know you're just taking care of yourself. She says, well, it's because I have low self-worth. I think you're beautiful, he says. But you know what? She would have never got to that part in their marriage had she just came out the beginning and just been honest and vulnerable. Like, babe, I'm really struggling with my weight and how I feel about myself. Well, I love you, who you are. Well, as a confident man, you just don't say, well, I still just think you're beautiful. You support her and tell her that.
Yeah. How can I help and support you, hold you accountable, and change the actual problem instead of covering it up?
Well, he gained weight too.
Right.
So he wasn't helping it, but had he held himself to a high standard
Right.
and but not like forced her to do those,
Mm-hmm.
and just led her through the self-confidence,
Right.
she would have got to that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Right.
But instead, they had dark secrets.
Mm-hmm.
He found out.
Mm-hmm.
Now it was so far gone that she had gained so much weight, her self-confidence so low, she's taking care of herself. Now to go back and sleep together feels super uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big part. You don't think it is, but now it's really uncomfortable. I've talked to so many people who now it's uncomfortable to sleep together,
Mm-hmm.
even though you've had kids together and all that other thing. It's really weird.
Well, it removes like the flirting, the everything, all that intimate connection, that happens throughout the days and time, together, not just the actual act of sex.
Well, that's porn and masturbation in general. Like that's a whole like another spin, right? That we could go down. It does.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually, guess what? They got a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even together anymore.
No.
Like, and that's sad. And they have multiple
Yeah.
kids together. They're
Yeah.
not together because A, he didn't lead himself well, and B, she kept her things in the dark. And C, your self-confidence. So I'm going to share a win on self-confidence for you guys today. I haven't shared this with you yet, so you'll enjoy this. So one of my clients, he came to us probably close to 2 years ago.
Okay.
It's the person I had the call with this morning, and originally from marriage, but this is a high level guy, big business owner, and they were in a good spot. I would say low good. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably say they're in a 7 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely better than majority of marriages.
Right.
He just always wants better. And when they came in, we were still working with couples at that time. And she was his wife was really tough to work with because she was extremely emotional. Her self-confidence was at like a 0 to 1, terrible. Didn't want to work out, didn't want to read the Bible. I remember when we challenged her on that, she was like, well, I might be able to read it one day a week. And I was like, come on. And just all this other stuff. And she was just a challenge to where she stopped actually getting on the calls, and he did. And me and him took so much territory together.
Yeah.
And so the reason why he still coaches is with me is that it just keeps leading to other things. It led to faith growth, mindset growth, business growth. Like God just moves in all these things. And so he's become a close brother in my life, but I still coach him as well. And during this time, his wife, 0 to 1 to confidence. So I honored him today because I don't even remember how we got. I was telling him he should get more vulnerable with his employees, his managers. And I said, dude, share the porn story. And so guys, here's something. His wife, he told me a year ago that his wife knew that he watched porn from time to time. He didn't have a big issue with it. Whether you watch it once a month or you watch it 100 times a month, you have an issue. Yeah. Same issue.
Yep.
Either way. It's no different than if you kill one person a month or you kill 100 people a month. You're still a killer.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, it doesn't really bother her though. And I said, I said, no, you're lying. He's like, well, no, she says it's okay. And I'm like, dude, she says that because she has such low self-confidence. You know she does. And he's like, yeah. And I go, and he goes, okay, well, here's some more vulnerable aspect. He said, sometimes when we're having sex, because they still had sex, he said, I would sometimes finish and sometimes not. And sometimes I couldn't get it up or it would go. And this dude's in his 30s. And he's like, or I would go limp during it. And of course, she would say, is it me? Is it something I could do better? And he's like, no.
Are you not attractive to me? Because that's going to be a huge one. If that was going on with you, I'd be like, what's the matter with me? Am I not good enough? Are you thinking of somebody else? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, if you couldn't get it up, or like me, like, right, like the devil would be in your brain saying you're fat, he's not attracted to you, you're not enough. He'd be playing with that, especially when you have no confidence already. And he said, so, and I was like, so you don't think that that's messing with your wife? He's like, well, I guess, So anyways, he removed porn from his life. And not one time since then has he not been able to get it up and not been able to finish every single time, 100% rate, right? Well, because he kept growing through the coaching and just leading himself well and all these other things, and his faith grew. It's just all these crazy things. Like this whole podcast could be about him. He told me today on the call, he's like, bro, I got to tell you, man. He's like, just even in the past few months, probably 2 months, he's like, it's been a rocket ship of growth. He's like, it's always been this slow burn over the past few years where I've watched her grow, her confidence grow in all these different areas. He's like, but in the last 2 months, she's crushing. He's like, dude, we were just on vacation last weekend. I have to go out of town for a football game. And guess what? Dude, she worked out both the days at the gym. He's like, I couldn't get her to work out ever in her life. And now like she's working out. She's like praying over people, all this stuff. And dude, you know who her, she's like not that person at all. The one we knew.
No.
And now killing it.
Yeah.
So guys, and I was like, bro, your story is my story. That's why I always tell guys, dude, you lead the way. You do the right things. You bring your stuff from dark to light. You become this person. And over time, your wife will become that person. That's what happened with me and Diane. And then dudes at like 3 weeks were like, it's not happening, man.
Yeah.
It's not happening, man. Dude, 2 years, bro. But this dude, you should have seen the look on his face of like how stoked he's at where he's at in life.
Trust the process. Stay the course. But people don't.
No.
They just, they give up after 3 weeks, a month. 6 months, whatever it is. Like you're planting the seeds even if you don't see anything changing.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Our business didn't blow wide open until 4 years. 4 years of the grind, and not an easy one, a freaking grind, endless torture fest. 4 years. You know how many people give up on their business fast? A lot. You know how much money we had to invest and just keep reinvesting and not buying clothes and not going out to eat and not taking trips and not doing any of that to get this to work because God called us to it. We had to show that we were trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Then he blew it open. Guys, that's what you got to do. But we've had to bring things from light to dark.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be the most vulnerable person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Your wife has to know everything about you. And you don't have to force her to do that over time. That will happen with her.
Mm-hmm.
You lead the way. You. And if you, excuse my French here, if you don't have the balls to do it, you'll never have a great marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go ahead and just suck it up for the rest of your life and have a crappy marriage, have your wife nag you, have your wife not give you intimacy, and have stay at that level, and then have frustration and stress in work. You can try to go work all you want, and then the money's not going to ever fill you up and all of that because you have dark secrets. Bring it to light. And I know I get bold and challenging, but it's the must. The thing that bothers me the most, we all have a unique discontent in life, and mine's weak, docile, passive men who don't want the smoke and point fingers. That's who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? I wasn't all of that, but I was a good portion of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, because I know there's possibility on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be willing to go to hell to get it. Same way this guy's about to go through hell to get his marriage to where it needs to be,
mm-hmm.
because he's going to bring it to his wife. But it's probably going to go far better than he actually thinks over time.
Yeah.
And when he's a year, 2, 3 down the line, and he's staying the course because he's already this character, what's going to happen is he's going to have a marriage he just never knew was possible.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts, babe, when people say, well, everybody argues. When you get older, you just gain weight. When you get older, you just have less and less sex. Menopause. No, all of that false.
Absolutely.
Menopause is a real thing. It just doesn't have to change your sex life and your drive. Holy Spirit, bigger than that. Attraction to each other, bigger than that. Love, bigger than that. Love never fails. Go read 1 Corinthians 13. Love never fails.
Right. It might bring new challenges, and it might bring trials and things that you have to figure out and work on together. Brings you closer probably because you're staying the course with it, because you're still trying, because, yeah, anyways, don't get me started.
Yeah, exactly. Freaking weak-minded. And I get it, guys. I love y'all when I do that because that was me. I was weak-minded.
So was I.
Lukewarm faith. Crappy friends who just wanted to talk fantasy football and all that other stuff, man. None of that stuff matters.
Mm-hmm.
We're in warfare, guys. We're in real warfare. That's a whole nother podcast we need to do. But, man, go get that marriage by bringing your secrets to the front. Make sure you're in the Word consistently before you do it, every single day, and also fasting before you do it. But do it, and I promise you, it'll go well. So, love y'all. God bless y'all. And my encouragement is this. If you guys need coaching and you want to get similar transformations as what I just said about this guy and his wife, who his wife is blowing things through the roof now too, there's going to be a free resource at the bottom of this podcast. Go ahead and download that. It'll help get your marriage on track. And there's a link also in there, if in that same link, to book a call with my lead advisor and see about possibly coming into the coaching program as well. But that just free resource is phenomenal in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, guys, I can't tell you how much this podcast impacts people who either decide that they're not at a spot to financially invest into coaching, or B, are just trying to grow and be better. This is impacting so many lives. I promise you that. Mm-hmm. But it really helps when you guys do a 5-star review. And so that just means the world to us, if that's just a way, because we give a lot of time and energy into this thing. And so that just means a lot to us. And so I thank you guys. If you could just do that, that'd be great. So God bless you. We just truly want the best. Much love.
Bye.